Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another tutorial. I apologize if I'm a little bit more quiet than normal. I'm gonna turn up my volume for this tutorial, so I apologize if you hear anything in the background. I'm potentially starting to come down with a little bit of a cold, so my throat is not wanting to let me get very loud when I talk, so I apologize in advance. On today's tutorial, we are going to be continuing on our How to Make an Avatar series in Unity. We are pretty much almost done with the avatar. This week should wrap up the series. I'm going to have a few different videos out for y'all this week. This one right now is going to cover facial expressions. So I'm going to cover how to make that, add it to your avatar, as well as testing it with the emulator that we installed in previous videos. After this video, I will record one last video about final edits. So if you need to go back into Blender to fix some clipping or something, final testing with Emulator, as well as uploading it to VRChat and exporting it for your customers if you're planning on selling Avatar. So there will be 2 videos out this week, and the series should be wrapped up after this. So that's pretty exciting. A little disclaimer before I start actually showing the facial expressions. If you've been following the series and you are waiting for the avatar that I've been making in the series to be released, she will likely be released sometime maybe next week or the week after. Since I am getting sick, I might be taking some time off. So next week there will be no tutorial videos, and I'll try to get her out this week, but it might be a week or 2 before I can get her finalized. So just wanted to throw that out there, and with that, let's get started. Okay, so where we left off with our avatar series is we've been adding materials. We added fizz bones. I went through and finalized off some of her materials, so she's a little bit more ready to go on my end. As well as the last week we had done toggles and walked through a few different ways of how to set up toggles for your avatar, including just the OG way as well as using the AB3 creator. So like I said, we're gonna work on facial expressions in this video, and then after that I'll make another video showing you guys how to use the Pumkins tool if you need to change something in Blender, as well as doing any final testing with the emulator one more time, uploading to VRChat, as well as exporting the package. But today, for right now, just for this video, we're going to go ahead and focus on facial expressions. So something that I've talked about in previous videos is you don't ever want to record animations on your original avatar, because on occasion it can break. It doesn't happen very often. Seems like it's something that's been getting resolved in Unity, but it does still happen on occasion. So just to be safe, you always want to duplicate. So Control D. And we want to record on the duplicate version just in case something was to break. Then you have your original avatar still saved without any recording done on it. So to get started, you want to find your FX layer and drag it onto your avatar. You can also click on your avatar in the animator spot, and sometimes, depending on how you set it all up, this might be down here. But either way, you just want to find an animator, and you can put the FX in this controller spot. If you are working on your avatar and you're like, oh, she's stuck in a bicycle pose, or she's stuck doing this loop of this, animation that I made for a dissolve toggle or something, that's probably the first spot you'd want to check, is make sure that on your avatar you're planning on using and uploading that the controller says none. Oh, bless you. Cat sneezed. Okay. So you'll want to make sure that your controller says none. And that's why we make duplicates, is also to kind of help with making sure you don't have that controller stuck on your avatar, because if you have that controller on your avatar, it can cause issues like that. But since this is a duplicate, this isn't the version of the avatar we're going to be uploading, you are wanting to record the facial expression, so you want that FX controller to be on there. It's the way that you record, just like before with toggles. So we're going to go ahead and go down to our animation. I'm going to create a new clip. I'm going to make this a new folder I'm going to call it facial expressions. And we're going to call this one happy. So we'll go ahead and hit record. She goes down into our bicycle pose, as she should. And I'm just going to zoom in here on the face so I can get a nice view. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on the head mesh so that it is highlighted. And up here where it says skin to mesh render, you're going to be looking for a spot that says blend shapes, and you'll click that down arrow. Most heads and bodies that you purchase come with the blend shapes already added. On occasion, if you happen to not see the blend shapes pop up for some reason in Unity and you are seeing them in Blender, you'll just want to use a new FX. So you'll just want to re-export it out of Blender and back into Unity. It's just a weird glitch sometimes that happens with Unity, and that's something we'll cover in the next video if you're not seeing that. But it should be popping up. It's not a glitch that happens very often, so you'll click your blend shapes. And there's a few different ways of creating facial expressions. I just find that this is the easiest way. These are all your sliders for your blend shapes. So since we're making a happy one, let's see. I'm going to play with the smile ones here and figure out which one I like. And then also Zenpia made these ones like it's kind of like pre-made all down here. So let's do, I kind of like it with like a little bit more of a closed mouth. I don't know. I think I like this one best, just not all the way. So with making facial expressions, it's perfectly okay if it's not at 100, and if you have ones that are recorded but set to 0, since they're set to 0, it's not gonna affect the facial expression. Now, if you are having issues for some reason, like you turned on tongue, and for some reason you're still seeing it, then you can come down here, you can click this and hit remove property, and it will delete it out. But I've never had any issues with it having ones recorded if they're set to 0, so it's not something that you should worry about. But that is how you delete it if you want to delete it, just to make it a little bit cleaner. So there's the happy one, so we're going to Control C and we're going to paste it onto the first animation. This isn't necessarily necessary anymore, but this is how I've always made them, just so that it has a full actual animation, like start and finish. So it's just habit. I don't believe you have to do that anymore, but that's just how I've always done them. So happy is done, so we'll go ahead and create a new clip, and let's do mad. I'm not going to do all of them since it's a bit of a repetitive process. And again, you know, you can use these pre-made ones if you want to, or you can mix and match up your own. They do not have a pre-made mad one, so I'm going to use this angry eyebrow, and I'm going to lower it a little bit. Let's do, that's not what I thought it was. That's cute. Okay. I think, yeah, something like that. And then you would just keep creating them. You can do create new clip. If you need to stop it, of course, you can hit stop recording. And then you could unpreview it if you want to. Anyways, you'll go through and you'll make all the facial expressions that you want. You have endless possibilities. There are tons of options, and there are tons of creators that will do, like, the left hand will have certain facial expressions and the right hand will have certain facial expressions. You can do that, so you can make as many as you want. Just know that if you set like the peace sign on the left hand to mad and you set the peace sign on the right hand to happy, be aware that if somebody does them both at the same time, they're going to overlap. So that's where some skill when it comes to recording can come into play. A lot of creators you'll see will say combined facial expressions for both hands. So that means that if you do overlap them, that they make something new. I don't quite know how to do that personally. I think it's just a matter of editing your animations to make sure that if everything was put together, it looks fine. I personally just make the 7 for all the hand options that you can make. So I just make the basic amount and I put it on both hands just because I'm not that creative with coming up with more. But it's something I'd like to learn, and if I do ever learn it, then I will be more than happy to show you guys. But for right now, we're going to add it to both hands because that's just what I'm most familiar with. So you can go ahead and delete your duplicate avatar. You don't need it. Open up your FX layer. One of the first things, delete those. So as always, delete the animations recorded in the all parts section because that can mess things up. One of the first things that I recommend doing is removing these masks here. These are primary issue causers for like stuck facial expressions or facial expressions acting up. You don't really need them, so you can click the gear, click where it says mask, and just hit delete. You want to do that on all 3 of them. There are needs for masks, but that's getting into a lot more advanced avatar creation stuff. So if you're having issues with your stuck facial expressions or your hands are getting stuck in like that kind of like a claw shape, that's a pretty common issue. It's the masks. You'll want to delete those, and that should fix the error there for you. So getting started with the facial expressions, one of the first things to talk about is right defaults. VRChat recommends that we leave right defaults off. What they are, I can't really explain. I don't really know and understand for sure, but I do know that it's part of the scripting. They recommend that we leave it off. A lot of creators, including myself, will leave them on and make the facial expressions with them on. So if you want to leave them off or on, you need to decide from the beginning and stick with that, because if you have mixed right defaults, so if you have some animations that use them on, some that use them off, it's going to cause issues. It's going to break the avatar. All kinds of bad things can happen. There might come a time in VRChat where it is forced to have them off, and future VRChat updates might break any that have them on, but so far there's not any thing that's hurting the right defaults being on. They just recommend them being off, I believe, for optimization. I'm not entirely sure, but if you leave them on, it's not hurting anything. It's not hurting the avatar. I don't see that it does anything as far as optimization, as far as like the upload file size or anything like that. So right now it's not quite literally doing anything to the avatar. So myself included, as well as many other creators, leave them on. And there's nothing wrong with leaving them on. There's nothing wrong with leaving them off. You do what you want. Just make sure that you decide and use that moving forward. So on our animations that we made, including the ones by the AV3 creator, which are the ones I ended up going with, they have them on. So we're going to stick with that to make sure that we don't have the mixed defaults. So one of the fastest ways, you can just drag and drop. You want to make sure that your idle and all of your hand gestures are highlighted, and you can check on right defaults. I check off parameter, off and on, and then we can actually start recording. So as you can see, it has the default animations already in it. I personally recommend just deleting them for the idle, and for anything if you don't make all the facial expressions, if you don't make all of a one for each one, if you just want the gun or the thumbs up hand motion to be empty, you don't want it to have a facial expression, you can just click in there and delete that motion. Again, it's perfectly fine. Now sometimes as you're going and you're doing a lot of recording, you're doing a lot of animations, if you're doing a lot on your avatar, on occasion I'll see a glitch that if this motion spot is left to none, sometimes it will cause issues, and it'll that's another cause of stuck facial expressions. That's when you'll want to make an empty animation. So you'll want to record just like you have before, maybe throw in some facial expressions or something, and make sure everything is set to 0. So you're kind of faking it out, or you can create something, you can like create an empty, record that empty object to be on off, and then delete it so that it shows up in yellow. You just want something there that's empty, so you're kind of making like a broken animation, and then you can put that in there. But that's a little bit more advanced. I'll maybe someday make a tutorial on it. It's kind of one of those that it's hard to make a tutorial on how to fix an error unless I can replicate the error. Personally, for me, that's just what I'm most comfortable with, so that I can actually show you guys. But for simple avatars, for basics, for starters, you don't really have to worry about it too much. You can just delete that motion there if you want it to be left empty. And on idle, that should always be left as none, because this is the starting animation pretty much. So that always is empty, at least for me. Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it really causes any issues. So we made happy and mad, so I'm going to put those on fist and open. I'll go through off screen and make the rest of them for her, but it's the same kind of rinse and repeat process. So there's a few different things you could do. You could come down to project, you could search in the bar, type in what you called it, and it'll pop up there, and you can drag and drop. You can use this little circle, and you can search it here, and then select it in whatever way is easiest for you. So that's with selecting it. If you go here, go happy, you can drag and drop, whatever's easiest. And you'll just want to do that for everything, all of these. And again, if you want it left empty, just select none. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and delete out the extra ones, just so that it doesn't cause any issues. And like I said, for my avatars, both hands have the same expressions, so that if you overlap, it doesn't do anything different. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other hand that we did on the right hand. I kind of did it backwards. I did right hand first. So now we're going to do left hand, mad, happy. And then these are all going to be deleted. And these are going to be empty just for now until I go back and fill them in. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all that there is to facial expressions. There's not really anything else that you have to add. Like, you don't have to add the additive layer. You don't have to add a gesture. It's just on the FX layer. You don't have to do anything with the menu or parameters. Facial expressions, it's all done on that FX layer. So that's pretty much it. You're done with creating your facial expressions. If you want to test them, which I don't know if my emulator's working. If it wants to load. I recently ran into an issue that it said I have to add the gesture manager into the project. So while it's trying to load, it's going to be this right here, gesture manager. So before you start a project, you would want to, and there's the emulator, so it is something that they're kind of like pre-including. I've never installed it through Creator Companion before. I always install it manually, but they are forcing you to install gesture manager, so that's where you would do that. I don't know if emulator is going to work. Where is it? Tools, emulator. Okay, it is working. One of my other projects, it was saying that I had to install the emulator for it to work. So if you get that error, that's just what you need to do. So anyway, so if you have your emulator running in play mode, of course, tools, enable, you can click on your avatar. Of course, there's our toggles. We've talked about that before. Right down here, gesture left and gesture right. So these are what we're looking for our facial expressions. So you can drag this, or you can click here. There's all your hand expressions, and this is like a radial if you want to do that. You can drag it, fist. So there's our mad, happy, and of course the rest of them are empty right now. But you could go through and test all of them that way. Same thing with your right hand, mad and happy. And if you did want to play with trying to overlap them, you know, this is what we're talking about. So having one happy and one mad kind of doesn't really do anything interesting. Kind of merges them, I guess, if you saw it. But that's a way that you can test overlapping if you want. That's a way you can test just the basic facial expressions just by clicking on it and scrolling down until you find that built-in inputs hand gesture section. And you can test your facial expressions. And I definitely recommend doing this, especially because you can go through them all and you can go back down to neutral and you'll see if anything is getting stuck, and then if it is getting stuck, you'll know that you'll need to work on fixing it, whether that's double checking the mask, making empty animations, whatever, or just reach out to another creator or another server and reach out for help. But that is the best way I recommend testing it. That way you don't have to worry about uploading it and getting her in game before testing your facial expressions. So that is it. With that said, that's pretty much the ending of avatar creation. We've covered emissions, we've covered materials, fizzbones, facial expressions, toggles, of course everything in Blender prior to being in Unity. So that's pretty much it from that point. There's nothing really else to do with basic avatar creation. There's tons more that you can do with making avatars. You can add spring joints, markers, particle effects, you know, full body dissolve toggles if you wanted to, like contact animations. There's all kinds of really cool stuff you can do. I just wanted this series to be for the basics. In the future, I will probably work on making more advanced tutorials, but I wanted this one to be kind of just the basics to help get people started. I will have another video out after this about using Pumkins if you need to go back into Blender for any reason, as well as how to upload from here, as well as how to export your package if you're planning on selling your avatars. And we'll kind of do a brief cover of TOS and stuff for like the shaders and things at that point after that. So as always, if you have any suggestions or anything that you would like me to make, feel free to let me know in the comment section or in my Discord server, and I will be more than happy to try my best to make any tutorials that you guys ask for. And I think that is it for now. So one more video and the series will be wrapped up. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.